Have you ever trusted someone with your whole heart, only to have them betray you at your weakest moment? My name is Natalie Brooks, and this is my story. The story of how the man I loved most left me pregnant and homeless. But how 5 years later I returned stronger, richer, and with a shocking secret that ruined him forever. Before I share my unbelievable journey, please tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? 5 years ago, life seemed perfect. I was 28, living the dream in Los Angeles as an up-and-coming fashion designer, married to Ethan Carter, the brilliant 32-year-old CEO of Carter Tech, one of California's fastest-growing tech empires. Our home in Beverly Hills was picture-perfect, glass, walls overlooking the city, marble floors, and every luxury imaginable. But the greatest joy wasn't the wealth or glamour. It was the life we were about to welcome into the world. I was 2 months pregnant, and Ethan was ecstatic. At least, that's what I believed. It was late April, and I had just landed back home after an exhausting but exhilarating week in Milan. My collection had been praised by critics, and the largest fashion houses were offering collaboration deals. Everything felt surreal, like I had finally made it. That evening, stepping through our enormous glass doors, I noticed Ethan sitting alone in the dimly lit living room. His face, usually warm and inviting, was cold and unreadable. "Ethan? Are you okay?" I asked softly, dropping my bags by the entrance. The air around him felt tense, unfamiliar. Without looking up, he said quietly, "Who's Daniel?" Confused, I moved closer. "Who?" "Don't play games with me, Natalie," Ethan snapped, his voice suddenly sharp. "Daniel Parker, the man you've been seeing behind my back for months." My heart stopped. I've never heard that name before in my life. "Ethan, what's going on?" He threw a phone at my feet. My phone. I picked it up with trembling hands and scrolled through messages, intimate conversations, exchanges that made my stomach churn with disgust. But these weren't my messages. I'd never written these words, never spoken to this stranger. "Ethan, someone must have hacked my phone." "This isn't me," I pleaded, panic rising in my chest. "Stop lying," Ethan exploded, finally meeting my gaze with eyes full of betrayal and hurt. "Miranda showed me everything, the hotel receipts, your meetings while I was away. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" Miranda. Ethan's distant cousin, Miranda Carter. The poised, brilliant lawyer who had always seemed just a little too close, too involved. The blood drained from my face as the truth became painfully clear. "Miranda showed you?" "Ethan, she's lying," I cried desperately. "She's always been jealous of us. Why can't you see that?" "You dare accuse Miranda after everything she's done for us?" Ethan's voice shook with anger. "She's family. She's loyal. Unlike you." I moved toward him, reaching out, desperate for him to see reason, to remember who we were. "Ethan, please, I love you. I'm pregnant with our child. Why would I ever do this?" He pulled away from me as if my touch burned him. "I can't even be sure if that child is mine anymore," he whispered bitterly, turning his back. "I want you out of this house. Tonight." Tears blurred my vision as I stared at the man who had promised to love and protect me forever. "Ethan, you don't mean this. Let's talk about it calmly tomorrow." "No, Natalie, now." He pressed a button on his phone, his voice icy and resolute. "Security will escort you out." Within moments, 2 large men appeared at the doorway. Ethan turned to them, his voice devoid of emotion. "Take her out. She's no longer welcome here." Before I could protest, I was being ushered roughly through the massive doors and into the pouring rain. I watched helplessly as staff hurriedly packed my things into my car. My phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. My accounts had been frozen, my credit cards canceled, emails revoked. It was as if my entire existence was systematically erased in minutes. Numb, shaking, and utterly alone, I drove aimlessly through the stormy streets, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Everything felt unreal, like a terrible nightmare from which I couldn't wake. Finally, exhausted and nauseous, I parked my car in a dark Walmart parking lot. Alone, frightened, and abandoned, I curled up in the back seat, holding my stomach as tears fell silently into the night. I was pregnant, betrayed by the man I adored, and my entire life was in ruins. Yet somewhere deep within the pain, I made myself a promise that would change everything. Ethan had made the worst mistake of his life. I didn't know how yet, but I would survive this. I would find out exactly who had destroyed my marriage, and why. But most importantly, I would rebuild my life. Not just to survive, but to return stronger than ever, and to one day confront the people who had tried to bury me. Because that night, beneath the darkened sky, alone in that empty parking lot, a new Natalie Brooks was born. The first glimmer of hope came at sunrise, several days after Ethan had thrown me out. Exhausted, sick, and emotionally shattered, I woke up shivering in the backseat of my car to the gentle tapping on the window. An elderly woman with soft gray hair and kind blue eyes peered in, concern etched deeply across her face. "Honey, are you okay in there? You don't look well." Too weary to pretend, I opened the door and stumbled outside, tears already flooding down my cheeks. Before I knew it, I was wrapped warmly in her comforting embrace, sobbing uncontrollably as the weight of everything crashed upon me again. "My name is Margaret Reed," she said soothingly, rubbing my back as if I were her own daughter. "Let me help you, dear. Whatever's happened, you shouldn't be out here alone." Margaret, as it turned out, had once been a respected professor at a prestigious fashion school. Her small, cozy home became my safe haven, a sanctuary from the world that had cruelly turned its back on me. The days passed slowly, but gradually. With Margaret's patient kindness and wisdom, I began to regain a sliver of strength and dignity. One morning, over a steaming cup of tea, Margaret gently placed a sketchbook and pencil in front of me. "Your heart is broken now, Natalie, but your talent is still alive. Don't let the cruelty of others silence the brilliance inside you." Something deep inside me sparked at those words. Despite all the pain, despite the crushing loneliness, I realized she was right. My passion for fashion had never truly left me. That same day, I slipped my wedding ring from my finger and sold it for a fraction of its worth. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy fabrics, thread, and a second-hand sewing machine. Night after night, I stayed awake designing pieces inspired by the daughter growing within me. I decided to name my unborn child Emma, a symbol of grace and strength. My creations carried her spirit, delicate but resilient, beautiful yet powerful. Determined, I launched a small online boutique on Instagram, branding it simply Emma's. Grace. Life was still challenging, but each small sale filled me with hope. Then, one evening, as if fate had finally decided to smile upon me, my phone lit up with notifications. A young influencer had purchased a dress from my boutique, worn it in a viral TikTok video, and overnight, Emma's grace exploded. Orders flooded in faster than I could sew them. My once humble designs were suddenly featured in fashion blogs, magazines, and trending hashtags. Almost overnight, the hopeless woman in the Walmart parking lot transformed into a thriving entrepreneur. Through all the growth and newfound success, my greatest gift arrived on a rainy November morning. When I first held baby Emma in my arms, staring into those perfect blue eyes that mirrored my own, nothing else mattered. I knew I had built something powerful, not just a business, but a legacy to protect and cherish. Months passed, then years, and Emma's grace became a household name, evolving from an Instagram shop into a full-fledged billion-dollar fashion empire. But with success came rivalry, and soon I learned that Miranda Carter, the woman responsible for ruining my marriage, had launched her own luxury clothing brand using Ethan's money. Every step forward I made, she tried to sabotage, spreading lies and turning suppliers against me. Miranda underestimated me, though. I wasn't the naive, trusting Natalie she had once manipulated. Every attempt to destroy me only fueled my determination. I knew exactly how far she'd gone to ruin me, and I wouldn't rest until I exposed her and took back the dignity she'd stolen from me. Building my company from nothing taught me resilience, but discovering Miranda's constant involvement ignited a fire within me. I wasn't just building an empire anymore. I was fighting back. For Emma, for myself, and for every person who'd ever been betrayed and left behind. Miranda and Ethan had tried to break me, believing they'd succeeded. What they didn't know was that, in doing so, they'd forged something unstoppable, a woman who would stop at nothing to reveal the truth. 5 years had passed, and I had built more than just an empire. I had created a new life filled with purpose, strength, and dignity. But despite my success, the shadow of the past still lingered, unresolved and haunting. Miranda and Ethan, now publicly a couple, were preparing to unveil Carter Tech's latest groundbreaking product at a lavish gala. Invitations were sent to every influential name in the industry, but the last person they expected to see there was me. That night, as spotlights pierced the velvet sky above Los Angeles, I arrived in a sleek limousine wearing a striking gown from my own collection. At my side was Emma, dressed in an elegant child-sized version of my design. Hand in hand, we walked with calm confidence toward the crowded entrance. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd as heads turned, recognizing me. The woman Ethan. Carter had discarded years ago. Ethan stood on the brightly lit stage beside Miranda, oblivious at first. But as the murmurs spread, he looked up and our eyes locked. In an instant, his face drained of color, the confident CEO replaced by a ghost of regret and confusion. Miranda's expression twisted from triumph to disbelief, and finally into sheer panic. "What is she doing here?" Miranda hissed into Ethan's ear, gripping his arm desperately. Before Ethan could reply, I approached the stage with Emma. His eyes widened as he took in the little girl at my side, immediately recognizing himself in her features. I stepped onto the platform without invitation, calmly turning toward the crowd. "Good evening, everyone," I said firmly, projecting strength into my voice. Most of you probably recognize me as Natalie Brooks, founder of Emma's Grace. But tonight, I stand here as a mother and as someone whose truth has been buried for far too long. The entire room fell silent, captivated by the unfolding drama. Ethan took a hesitant step forward, his voice shaking. "Natalie, this isn't the place." "No, Ethan, this is exactly the place," I replied firmly, holding my ground. 5 years ago, I was falsely accused, humiliated, and thrown out into the street, pregnant with your child, because you trusted someone who betrayed us both. Miranda's eyes flashed with rage as she stepped forward, attempting to regain control. "This woman is delusional. Ethan, call security now." Ignoring her, I raised my phone, pressing play on the carefully guarded audio recording I had obtained through months of patient investigation. Miranda's own voice echoed clearly through the speakers, detailing exactly how she manipulated evidence, fabricated lies, and intentionally destroyed my marriage to steal Ethan's wealth and influence. Shockwaves surged through the audience, and Miranda's face turned ashen, her confident facade crumbling into panic. Cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing every detail as reporters frantically scribbled notes. Ethan's eyes filled with horror as the reality sank in. He had believed. "A monstrous lie, Natalie," Ethan whispered, voice broken and pleading. "I had no idea." "No, Ethan, you chose not to believe me," I answered gently but firmly. "And because of that, You missed out on knowing your own daughter. I looked down at Emma, who clung tightly to my hand, staring bravely back at the father she had never known. Security guards arrived on the scene, but rather than escorting me away, they approached Miranda. She screamed protests, fighting in vain as they gently but firmly led her off stage, away from the chaos she had caused. Ethan stood, frozen, overwhelmed by humiliation and regret, unable to form words as the cameras continued to flash mercilessly around him. Turning my back on the man who had abandoned me, I took Emma's hand and walked off stage, dignity intact, finally free from the shadows of the past. Justice had been served, not through revenge, but through revealing the truth in front of those who mattered most. As I stepped out into the cool night air, holding my daughter tightly, I knew I had finally reclaimed everything that had been stolen from me. In the weeks following that unforgettable evening, life took on a new sense of calm and clarity. Ethan's company spiraled into scandal, his carefully built empire fracturing under the weight of betrayal and deceit. Miranda faced investigations that shattered her carefully constructed image, ultimately leaving her reputation in ruins. But none of this mattered much to me anymore. My life was no longer about them. It was finally mine again. One rainy afternoon, Ethan appeared at my office, unannounced and visibly humbled. I noticed how the years had changed him, lines of stress, now etched deeply on his once flawless face. For a moment we stood in silence, each of us searching for the right words. "Natalie, I'm so sorry," he finally whispered, his voice thick with genuine regret. "I should have believed you. I should have fought for you and Emma." I studied him quietly, feeling neither bitterness nor longing, only compassion for someone who had realized too late what he'd lost. "I forgave you a long time ago, Ethan," I said softly. "Not for your sake, but for mine and Emma's. But forgiveness doesn't mean we can ever go back to what we once had." He nodded slowly, tears glistening briefly in his eyes before he turned to leave. Watching him go, I felt no regret, only peaceful closure. The chapter of heartbreak and betrayal was finally complete. With each passing month, I embraced the new chapter that life had opened for me and Emma. And as fate would have it, it was during one of Emma's routine checkups that life gently nudged me toward an unexpected turn. In the small, bright pediatric office, we met Dr. Lucas Bennett. Lucas had kind eyes and an easy smile that immediately put Emma at ease. From our first meeting, his sincerity and warmth stood out to me, qualities I had long forgotten could exist. Our conversations grew deeper over time, shifting effortlessly from Emma's health to personal dreams, ambitions, and quiet reflections. Lucas respected my past, never rushed me, and showed genuine affection toward Emma, who began to trust him deeply. Slowly, our casual meetings evolved into something richer, a gentle friendship, blossoming quietly into love. One sunny afternoon, as Emma's 6th birthday approached, Lucas surprised us both by organizing a small, intimate celebration in his garden. Watching Emma's delighted face as Lucas lifted her onto his shoulders, laughter echoing brightly around us, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Margaret Reed, my guiding angel who had saved me years before, watched quietly from the porch, her eyes twinkling with pride and love. As twilight painted the sky with warm shades of orange and purple, Lucas gently reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers. "Natalie," he whispered softly, his voice steady and reassuring. "I know the past has left scars, but I promise you, from this day forward, you and Emma will never face the world alone again." My heart swelled, and tears blurred my vision. But this time, they were tears of happiness and relief. Lucas had offered me more than just companionship. He had given Emma and me a safe place to rebuild our lives, filled with trust, respect, and unconditional love. In that moment, surrounded by the people who genuinely cared for us, I realized the profound truth that my difficult journey had revealed. sometimes losing everything we thought we needed guides us toward everything we truly deserve. My story wasn't one of revenge. It was a story of redemption, resilience, and the quiet strength it takes to rise from the ashes and build something beautiful. This story reminds us of a powerful truth. Strength and resilience can transform even our deepest pain into something extraordinary. Natalie's journey teaches us that forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past. It's about freeing ourselves to build a better future. So, now I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment 2 below if you loved this inspiring story, or 7 if it wasn't quite your style. And if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It means the world to us and helps us continue sharing more empowering stories just like this one.